Now, just like the introduction of the printing press was a revolution in the way that information was disseminated, and that meant that more and more people could read the Bible, so in this time of COVID, live streaming has enabled many more people all over the world to listen in and be part of the church. Now, a couple of weeks ago, Matt told me a few statistics regarding how we as a church have had an impact on Facebook. And I thought it would be good for you to hear some of these, because they're amazing statistics. Our weekly reach, reach is a technical word for Facebook, our weekly reach for our Sunday services is between 1,000 and 2,000 people. Our average engagement per Sunday is between 600 and 1,800 people, and probably significantly more as Facebook measures devices, some of which are viewed by multiple people. Our reach per week for all of our social media, so that's our weekly meetings, the worships, the prayer, and these services, that's around 4,000 people per week. Since March 2020, over 65,000 minutes of social media content has been watched, just from our church. And it's been watched by people in 21 countries. Our engagement and reach and in all other measures continues to grow. And so I think it's true to say that in all things God works for the good of those who love him. Now, I thought it would be also good for you to know a few sort of thoughts that we're having as a church at this moment, a bit of an update as to how we think we were going to proceed as a church in the coming weeks and months. The current government guidance affecting church gatherings include no singing, no contact with people that they didn't come with, leaving as soon as possible, observing social distancing and specific hygiene stuff. And the government have said that in England, it is recommended that where possible, places of worship continue to live stream their worship sessions rather than have large gatherings. And so, whilst it remains our long-term intention to return to Birkdale and probably continue live streaming at the same time, given the current government restrictions and given our view of what we think would be careful and best for us at this time, we're of a mind that currently our online experience is far better for us than if we were to physically meet on a Sunday. So therefore, our Sunday services and our life groups will continue each week throughout the summer online, because we recognise that it's important for us as a church to socially and spiritually connect, especially when we're unable to physically connect. And so I want to encourage you to do 5 simple things. Firstly, to engage in church activities by looking at the Sunday services on Facebook and engaging in the worship just like we've been doing this morning. Secondly, listen to the other regular weekly worship and prayer outputs that go onto Facebook. Thirdly, engage in life group each week on Zoom. Fourthly, remain outwardly focused by seeking to communicate with people who we know are living alone or who don't have access to a computer at home or who are isolated perhaps because of their age or their health. And lastly, where possible, help the poor by getting involved in providing food for the food bank or delivery. There's loads of other things that you can do. The safe opportunities to bless and help people at this time are almost limitless. And God throughout the Bible commands all of us to give food to the hungry, to clothe the poor and bless the needy. Just look at Luke 3:11, for instance. And there's no footnote that says, oh, and you don't need to do this during the COVID season. And so today we're going to start a short series of mini talks for this summer season that focuses on attributes of God. And hopefully these talks will help us to look at who God is and what he's like. To know our God is good for us, and it equips us to give hope for a hurting humanity in search of truth and meaning. They're short and sweet, and the first one is by Tim. Come on along.
Hello. I'm Tim, and my talk is the first of these chunk of mini talks, and it's all about how God is wise, and what that means for us. So, wisdom, the Oxford Dictionary, it's a good place to start, describes being wise as having or showing experience, knowledge, good judgment. But wisdom is different to knowledge. Knowledge allows someone to know answers, but wisdom allows someone to determine which of those answers is best. Whilst having knowledge allows us to know something, wisdom allows us to make the best judgment as a result of having knowledge. Having knowledge is to have information, and having wisdom is to know what to do with that information. It is also to do it. And to know what to do, and to know what is good and to know what is true, is actually quite difficult. It's quite a difficult thing to establish. But to be wise by doing what we know to be good and true, that's even harder. The good news for us is that God, the wise one, he wants to use his own wisdom to benefit us. I'd say there are two ways that God uses his wisdom to help us. The first way is he gives us his wisdom so that we're able to know the right thing to do and do the right thing. And you can see an example of this in Solomon's story, which you can read all about in 1 Kings. And my advice is do read about it in 1 Kings, because it's a good story. The second way that God uses his wisdom to help us is he himself gets involved in our life situations and acts upon his own wisdom. Just like good parents look after their child by setting boundaries and holding their hand, God intervenes over our lives and makes our lives better for us. It's that second one that I've seen most prominently in my life recently. I'd describe my life at this point in time as vaguely dynamic. Matt's laughing at me. Brilliant. He always does that. But anyway, recently I finished studying at school and I found a part-time job, and in this coming year I'm going to then have to leave that job and move off to a different city, and I'm going to leave Sheffield Vineyard for the first time since my family planted it, and I'm going to go off and study at a university, and I'm also getting married. It's all a bit busy. There's a lot happening. And my immediate future comprises of quite a lot of uncertainties. So come October, I actually have no idea where I'm going to be living. I have no idea how the new church will compare to this one and where my place in that church will be. And if my grades aren't what I hope they are, then where will I go to uni? I do not know. That might also change. And yeah, if there's another coronavirus outbreak, then of course that'll bring huge changes, possibly similar to the ones we've already seen, possibly different. Among all of these uncertainties, however, I have felt God say to me that he's in control, that he knows all that could possibly happen, and he knows which scenario will be best for me, and he will get me to that scenario. For me, the knowledge that God is kind and that he likes me and that he can do whatever he wants, and he's got he's got a strong track record of being wise. It's a huge comfort when my future comprises of so many question marks and unknowns. Truthfully, there have been times when I've looked at what's going on around me and it seems a little overwhelming, and it looks as though it's not actually heading in the direction that I want it to go in. But despite appearances, I've had to hold on to the knowledge that God is wiser than I am. However challenging a situation seems to be, he is still in control of it. And he's still pushing me forward to the better place. Now, I am well aware that I'm not the only one who experiences uncertainties. My guess is that you have your own story, and one that involves questions and doubts, and no one knows everything about their future. And so, although our situations are all very different, we are in the same boat in a broader term. And my top tip is this: know that God is wiser than us. And know he loves us more than we could ever know. And therefore, we have every reason to trust in his wisdom more than in our own. For he actually has the ability and the motivation to guide our lives to a better place. The wisest thing that we can do is to know that God is wiser than us, and just hold out our hands and allow him to take us along.